you know what I was really interested in, Greta, is when you mentioned, you know, the mythology, because for me, I've always seen humans, actually, I forget who used the term, but there's like a sort of old philosopher who called human beings homo religiosus, and he said the thing that, you know, differentiated us from like the Neanderthals and, you know, those kind of humans was the fact that we had this religious instinct which allowed us to group around ideas and sacred objects and work together in groups that were huge. And I think that, yeah, we do have this instinct, and we do need stories, and we do need myths, and we have lost
shared stories within a culture.
Stories,
so that's the key. And what we see today is that it's all falling apart because we no longer have a shared myth. We no longer have, I mean, I don't even think there's a single thing we could all agree about. That the trans right activists and the far right could agree about. I mean, could they even agree that the sky is blue?
Yeah, but couldn't we agree?
I don't think so. They would
we agree? No, that's subjective, whether the sky's blue.
There would be some pedantic arsehole.
Don't you feel like we could agree on liberal principles if we would just teach them in our schools? I think that there's really, you know, such a disservice that's been done to the generations of our society in not teaching the beauty and the liberation of the liberal principles that, you know, you and I and
that makes sense in theory. The problem with that though is that, and it's very unfortunate, but I think this is the case, that the liberal ideology is the only one that kind of treats other cultures as equal. And it just starts, so its necessary culmination in a way is that it stops believing in itself.
It will destroy itself. It leaves
so you're not going to teach those principles at school either, because what you actually believe is that all other thought systems are just as relevant. And
can I just step in and say that no, we would not all agree that the sky is blue, because some stupid SJW would say that was prejudice against colorblind people.
Also in Scotland, the sky is always grey.
Right.
I would, yeah. I would also say with reference, what was it you just said, Greta?
About liberalism being so tolerant and accepting.
Like, just like you said, you were a traditional liberal, I would say so am I. But the modern liberals are actually, to be honest, quite as racist as the far right these days.
Oh, they are very illiberal.
They just do it from the opposite angle. So, for example, they say that, you know, in the 1960s, a staunch upright conservative would have said, you are not allowed to, I don't want my white children listening to that black music. Whereas these days, a liberal would say, I don't want my white children listening to that black music because it's cultural appropriation. You know, so it's like they would agree with the racism of the past. Yeah, exactly. So
they're having segregated spaces now at university.
Yeah,
talking about drinking fun, you know.
Yeah, but I think that goes back to my question that I asked earlier, that if we act against biology, if tries to self-regulate, and I think that the left, for example, freed sexuality. So we had the whole sexual liberation movement, and now the people that were fighting for sexual liberation, all they talk about is consent and restricting male sexuality more and more and more, because they realized that sexual liberation doesn't work well for women. So now they don't know it, but they actually panic because they acted against nature, I think, because women always had to protect their own sexuality, and then they took this protection away, and now they're like, somehow this doesn't work, and now they're trying to readjust, and they become hyper Puritan, but in a very weird way.
Can I weigh in and say that I totally agree, except first of all, women didn't have to protect their own sexuality. They did have fathers and brothers who did that for them. But secondly, it was their sexuality was worth a diamond ring and a lifelong contract of servitude. And when they gave that...
Sorry, when I meant they had to protect it, I said by saying no. I don't choose you. I don't want you. But yeah, you're right. Fathers and brothers obviously helped.
But like women's sexuality was worth literally gold and diamonds. And they gave that away in the 1960s and then realized that they had given away an incredible amount of power. And the only way they could get that back was by saying, we need to make men jump through hoops again. So let's use the rape button. Everything that they do that I don't give full and an unbridled consent to is rape.
Even afterwards.
I mean, to diverge slightly, you know, some of your writing, Greta, that I particularly enjoyed has been on the Femme Fatale, actually. Yeah. And she is, you know, a sexually liberated figure. So what are you thinking when you're hearing all this kind of stuff?
So it was actually the Me Too movement that inspired me to explore the Femme Fatale archetype. And the reason for that is that I read an article in 2017. It was an article about the Manchester Art Gallery removing a piece of art of J.W. Waterhouse's great painting about Hylas and the Nymph. Actually, I have it here. Let me just.
I've got a is it J.W. Waterhouse? J.D. Waterhouse? I've got his The Lady of Shalott in my bedroom.
Well, I'll just send you the image because you can't see it that well. But anyway, it's an image of water nymphs.
Oh no.
And trying to, so the story is that
Sorry, Greta, did everybody lose her audio for a second?
Yes, you have to repeat the sentence, sorry.
So Hylas and the Nymphs is this painting about this Greek or Roman warrior who's seduced by these water nymphs who try to drag him into the water to his death. Okay. And the Manchester Art Gallery removed this painting in either late 2016 or early 2017 because they believed it sent a wrong message about women's sexuality by portraying them as
dangerous.
Yeah.
What's that like?
And that's basically, I interpreted that as an attack on the femme fatale, which is as old as mankind. The femme fatale archetype it is an archetype because it's just so fundamental. You just can't push through it. You know, it's present in all mythologies, all religions.
What I find interesting is when you watch TV shows that are directed and written by women, almost all the female characters are actually evil characters, and they are often because they're more interesting. Okay, have you guys watched the TV show Jessica Jones? It's a superhero show.
I have.
It's all directed by women. It's all written by women, and it's supposedly this feminist, female empowering thing. Every single female character is broken and nasty, and the only positive characters, I have to say, are some of the men, including some drug addicts that still have a good heart. And I find it very interesting that when women portray women archetypes, they're usually not heroic. They are not, they usually have a big ego. They are often arrogant. They are often a little bit destructive. And I'm like, why is it that women create characters that are not very positive to society? That at least that's what I saw recently. I don't know if you noticed the same.
I would say that I disagree. I think that's just feminist women.
Okay. Yeah.
Feminist women tend to make Mary Sue characters, but so much of our literature is created by women. So like Mary Shelley, J.K. Rowling, Agatha Christie. Agatha Christie is the best-selling novelist of all time. Those females didn't write harmful female characters. So
no, yeah, recently. Sorry.
I think it is just a problem of modern feminist writing.
Is it maybe because, and I'm very interested in Greta's opinion. So,
well, I'll go.
So, I think most women that are in positions of power, let's say, so movie producers, writers, and stuff like that, I would say that is a powerful position to be in. It's hard for them to embrace traditionally positive female traits like being nurturing, being caring.
But it doesn't make a great story, in all fairness.
Well, I would disagree when you look at movies like The Color Purple or like Steel Magnolias, where it was about female camaraderie and women looking out for each other and caring for other people. I think these are great stories, and I think they show enormous female strength.
But even there, the underlying political tension is kind of what fuels the story. And then you have the personal struggles.
Yeah,
but I find the female, I think, and that's something that I wanted to talk to you about. I think there is a holiness and there is an immense power in the softness and in the softer character traits of women, but they are especially recently, they are not being portrayed in a beautiful light. And you talked in one of your videos about Mother Mary, and she is the Holy Mother. She cares about the world, or Mother Earth, that pretty much gives birth to all life. I think these are such strong characters. They're not fighters. They're not.
But would Mary be a story if it wasn't for her son being offered up as a sacrifice?
So you
would man be a story if there wasn't a woman to protect?
No. I think Greta is completely right when she suggests that there is a difference in how much of a story there is there, because I've just been reading today Roger Scruton's short introduction to the concept of beauty, and he was talking about the difference between things that are beautiful in the way that, say, St. Paul's Cathedral is beautiful, majestically beautiful and eye-catching and attention-grabbing, and then things that are day-to-day beautiful, that kind of make our lives more pleasant, the kind of way we choose our cushion covers and our phone cases that are not majestically beautiful, and they wouldn't make a story and they wouldn't stir your heart. But and I think kind of women as caring mothers is kind of on that domestic, not dramatic level.
I always found Mary as a really interesting phenomenon in terms of a lot of liberals say that the Catholic Church is one of the most misogynistic institutions in the world. And even when it comes to Protestantism, a lot of Protestants believe that Protestantism is far more progressive than Catholicism in terms of sex relations. But Mary, according to Christianity and particularly the Catholic Church, Mary is the only perfect human to ever exist. So this patriarchal institution believes that there was one perfect human in the world, and it was a woman. And then when it comes to prayer time, they say 10 Hail Marys for every Our Father. So I always thought it was really weird that the Catholic Church, because of the idea that it doesn't have female priests, that it's marked down as not respecting women in the slightest. But if you ever talk to a Catholic about Mary, they do nothing but gush over her.
I'm a Catholic, by the way.
Oh, are you? Did you just...
And I love, I mean, I'm so fascinated by the pagan roots of Catholicism. That's why it appeals to me so much. But just going back to the previous point about women in stories, a common feminist criticism of like literature in general and films is that women are always supporting characters. They're always the mother or the wife or the woman the war is fought over. So women do have very important roles. And I have no problem with that women are portrayed in these characters, because if you think of Helen of Troy, one of my favorite characters of all time, she was not the protagonist in the story in the sense that she was not constantly present there, but the whole war was fought over her. The reason 2 nations went to war was her. With the Bible, Mary is obviously an incredibly important figure, but she's not the heroine of the story. It's, you know, she's the mother of the hero.
Yeah, I remember Anita Sarkeesian saying a similar thing, that if 2 knights fought to the death to defend the honor of a lady, that lady was being oppressed and that they were objectifying her. You know, and it's just like, yeah, because if 2 women fought to the death over a man, that man would be like just so put upon. You know, what a terrible burden.
I always thought, even as a little kid, I thought I already had the feeling that feminism in the like 70s and 80s was going wrong, because I was like, why does feminism not uplift the qualities of women and say, hey, you guys are doing a great job, but we women we are doing a great job as well. Like, we raise the children and we make sure that everything is going okay in the house, and that can't be undervalued. And
pulling the strings from the background too.
Pardon, say again?
And pulling the strings from the background.
Exactly, and I thought...
But that's exactly my main criticism of feminism, actually, that they idealize masculine power.
Absolutely.
Masculine power is the only power they acknowledge. And they completely dismiss the importance of a very distinct, largely invisible power that's just as important.
And I think this invisible power should have brought to light, and I think that we should have celebrated womanhood and motherhood and giving women the freedom to do whatever they want to, but also saying, we've been doing a lot of stuff invisible the whole time, and could you please take notice of that? And I think that's where feminism really failed, and I would like to celebrate womanhood, and I would like to celebrate manhood, and I think, to me, I really want to start using the term sacred masculinity more and more, and also sacred femininity. And I think when you see a woman entering the room that is truly feminine and embraces her female power, your jaw just drops. And it's the same for a man who is just pure in his masculinity. Everybody looks towards them because they're like, you're real, you're true, and both are being...
It's 2 different types of charisma.
Yes, yeah, and they're complementary. I think that with a man, with a masculine man, everybody wants to follow him, and with a feminine woman, everybody wants to serve her. Like, at least women, I guess, want to maybe be like her, and men just want to serve her. And
well, feminists want to crucify her.
That's very true. I can't have that.